Yo, what's good, gang? It's the Dope Guy, and I am back with another video, big dog. Yo, hope you guys are all doing well out there because I'm doing alright. And here I am spinning the block with content for y'all, man. So, hey, yo, today's video we got my Passport 2. Subscribe to this channel, man. This is German police versus American police. I already know this is about to be interesting. Gonna learn the difference between police compared to in America, which we already know how they are out here, compared to out there in Germany. So I know it's gonna be very interesting to learn the difference between the two. Shout out to all my people in Germany. Much love, respect to y'all, man. If you ever visited the US, much love, respect. Hope you guys enjoyed it and we're safe and plan on coming back again. And any of my American folks who've been to Germany, shout out to y'all. I cannot wait to get into this video of learning the difference between the two. But before we tap in, subscribe to the Dope Guy, that way they get notifications every time I upload, and follow me right here on Snapchat and Instagram right across the bottom screen. So with that being said, I'm not gonna hold y'all much longer because you already know this. Go big dog. Let's get into it. Yes, sir.
Last week I was taste testing German Christmas cookies. Today I'm going to share with you the differences in my personal run-ins with the law in both Germany and the US.
That's a hell of a jump. That's a hell of a jump.
Mixed bag of content.
Yeah, that. I was just thinking like, yo, that is, you are in a different type of bag. Go from talk about cookies to talk about dealing with law enforcement between America and Germany. That is a whole different thing, man. Can't wait to tap in.
Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. I am Donnie, and along with my wife Aubrey, we are two Americans currently living in Germany with our baby, sharing all of our experiences living and traveling throughout Europe. I hate talking politics on YouTube, and I've said this multiple times on our channel, but when we're talking about the police, for a lot of people this can't help but be a political topic, unfortunately. Right. I think more so, this is especially true in the US, where the police have become such a hot button topic. So for those of you that think that this is what this video is, it's not. What this video is me talking about my personal and individual observations of police between the US and Germany through my interactions and encounters with them in both countries. Yep. Yes, because I have had encounters with the police in both countries, unfortunately. But we'll get to that in a second. So yeah, I have to say that my worldview is of course shaped by who I am and where I'm from in the southern US state called Oklahoma, and where I live now in a southwestern German state called Rhineland-Pfalz. But you may have completely different experiences, which I would welcome hearing in the comments below. Also, in both the US and Germany, there are lots of different levels and types of police forces in the state, federal, or even city levels, for example. But I'm not going to get into all of those specifics in this video. This video is about the basic, general, overarching term police in these two countries. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today in my video. 911 or 112. Here's the police in my view. For Americans watching, if you come to Germany, the word for police in German is Polizei! So technically different, but also basically the same. Yeah. In general, this is what a police officer looks like in the US, and this is what one looks like in Germany. There are sometimes variations to uniforms based on what specific type of police they are or where they are located, but this is generally what you can expect to see. For me as an American, one of the most interesting things to find out when I first saw German police was what they actually carry on them. In a previous video where I talked about things I thought about Germany before moving here, there is a general belief that Europeans are so anti-gun that they don't really exist in Europe, and sometimes there can be false rumors created that European police officers don't even routinely carry guns. And that may be true in some cases for some other European countries, but I remember specifically when we first moved here looking to see if German police officers routinely carry guns, because I thought that they might not based on those American rumors, but I learned that the German police do in fact generally carry firearms. So overall, the general appearance and I guess what they carry actually isn't that different in my opinion and experiences, unless of course we are comparing German police specifically to the Texas Highway Patrol, which do look very, well, Texas. Right. So besides the actual police officers themselves, the other iconic part to police forces are their vehicles, of course. So first off, in the US, I've seen a picture that floats around Facebook to show a supposed problem with American police forces, and that is this one. Of course, this isn't exactly a German police car on the left, that would actually be this. But the entire point of this post is kind of lost when I then informed these American friends that there are actually, in fact, undercover police cars in Germany as well, and non-undercover American police cars exist, of course, as well. However, I will definitely admit that in general, the German police cars are much more visible and recognizable immediately because of the bright colors they use, unlike American police cars, which sometimes, even if they aren't undercover, may require a second look to make sure it is in fact a police car and not a civilian vehicle. U.S. police forces use an extremely wide array of vehicles, so I can't definitely say one make or model is the typical American police car, but generally some of the most popular are going to be Dodge Chargers or Ford Explorers and Chevy Tahoes. The makes and models of police cars in Germany can
seen all those on the streets. Definitely all of those, bro.
Vary with popular choices being Mercedes-Benz E-classes or Vitos, for example. One of the other biggest differences you can't actually see are, of course, the sounds they make. No, not the vroom vroom sound, the wee-woo sound. One thing I can speak from experience that our American friends and family who visit always comment about is how the sound landscape is different in Europe than in the US. In particular when it comes to the sounds of sirens, and some even comment that since they have only ever heard the European siren in Hollywood blockbusters, they feel like they're on the set for a Jason Bourne movie when they first hear it during their visit in Europe. So brace yourself, because here is the traditional American siren.
Yeah. Right.
And the German siren.
Okay, I've heard that sound before. But that has a similar sound to like an ambulance or something like that, almost. But I've heard that sound before.
Real quick, a shout out to all my patrons who have continued supporting us throughout this entire year. You know who you are, and I want you to know that I really appreciate you guys. If you would like to know more about becoming a patron of ours, there is a link in the description that you can check out. Also, a quick note that a link to our merch shop is also in the description below, and I'd be happy if you guys check that out. And the last thing, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe buttons, I would be so grateful to you. But now let's get back to the video. So, speaking of sirens, I alluded to the fact that I have had some encounters with the police in both countries. So let me tell you about those experiences, because there are big differences in the interactions that I have had with them. And also, there's big differences in why I've had encounters with both police forces. So first off, let me burst your bubble by saying that I don't have any kind of criminal history, actually, but I have been pulled over on the road by police officers in both countries for traffic infractions. It's not that I'm a bad driver, it's just that I have an unfortunate medical condition called leadfoot, with the only cure being either police intervention or moving to Germany, where there are some sections of the highway without speed limits. So in the US, I have been pulled over for speeding a couple of times, and this typically happens when a police officer is usually parked on the side of the road, either hiding their car behind
in the cut.
A bush.
They definitely be in the cut, just sitting there clocking for somebody to speed so they can pull them over and give them a ticket or a warning. Sign or something else that you can't see them sitting there watching for speeders. This is how it happened to me in almost all of the experiences, and the police officer would then pull behind me, turn their lights on, but if it doesn't get your attention, they might also do a short burst of their siren to get your attention. Once I pulled over, the solo officer parked their car behind me, walked up to the car, and then talked to me for a bit, ran my information if they deemed it necessary, and then decided if they were going to give me a ticket or just a warning. This is very different from what I've experienced in Germany. So I've been pulled over once in Germany, but it actually wasn't for speeding. And I'll get to that reason in a minute. Aubrey and I were driving one day on a day trip when I needed to turn left onto a cross street, but it technically wasn't allowed. We were way outside of town and there wasn't anybody around, so I thought, and I figured I would just go ahead and make the illegal turnaround. Exactly. Everybody does that.
Find somewhere else to turn around. However,
he was in the cut.
I quickly saw a police van racing up behind me. The German police car, rather than following me and turning on its lights like in the US, it actually sped around and got in front of you. If this happens in the US, then that typically means that they are going after someone else. And so I thought that I was off the hook because they weren't following me anymore. However, as it got in front of me, a little sign lit up on the back of the van with the words "Bitte folgen." At the time, we were still new here, so I didn't know what that meant, but don't you worry. That sign then changed to English as I read my mind to "Please follow. They then found a safe place for us to pull over. I pulled over, and 2 police officers walked up on either side of my vehicle. The procedure was basically the same as in the U.S.
Also, in the U.S., they pull up behind you pretty much with telling you, hey, pull over. In Germany, they pull up in front of you and want you to follow them. That way y'all are somewhere safe to park. That way they could, get out and do their thing.
At this point, and they explained to me that the left turn wasn't supposed to be done.
Right.
Then they gave me a warning and sent me on my way. So the procedures of getting pulled over in both countries are slightly different, but that's not the biggest difference I've experienced with the police, or actually, I should say, not experienced with the police in Germany, I guess.
Okay.
For one, Germany doesn't really patrol streets with officers looking for speeders. So how do you get in trouble for breaking the speed limit, you might ask my American friends? When we very first moved here, I rented a car locally, and as I was leaving the shop, the woman working ran after me and said, "Oh, just a warning, they just put a blitzer on the Autobahn." I said, "A what?" And she said, "A blitzer." And I said, "Oh, what?" We both were so confused, she not understanding why I didn't understand, and I not understanding what the hell's a blitzer
is. Yeah.
Honestly, I can't remember if she explained it to me or if I didn't learn what it was until I was then flying down the highway and got flashed by a bright light. But I learned that for the most part, Germany controls speed on all road types with cameras and radar rather than an actual police officer patrolling. These cameras can be permanent or portable, they can be disguised or somewhat obvious, but there are hidden cameras all over Germany waiting for you to speed by so that it can snap your picture and it'll let you know that you have a ticket coming with this bright flash.
Same out here, you know what I'm saying? In Chicago for sure. You make a turn or whatnot, you get that flash, you like, damn. You know that you about to get that ticket in the mail. You know it's coming. You like, damn,
you
bro.
then receive your ticket a few weeks later in the mail, which will have your lovely candid photo on it, a photo of your license plate, and all the information you need to pay your fine. Now, I'm not going to tell you how many of these candid pictures I have in my collection, but let's just say that I am very familiar with this process.
For sure.
But speaking of the speeding tickets, those were also a huge shock in Germany. And I guess you could say in a good way, because speeding tickets are ridiculously cheap in Germany. From what I'm unfortunately used to in the US, it makes me actually question if this really stops people from speeding with such a small slap on the wrist. First off, both the US and Germany have general allowances they will typically give you crossing over the speed limit. For example, the general rule of thumb is 4 miles per hour or 4 kilometers per hour over the speed limit. The thing is, those look similar, but the conversions actually reveal a pretty big difference, and a vast majority of the tickets that I've gotten in Germany has been just above that general allowance that in the US would be in the allowance and wouldn't warrant a ticket. For example, I have a German speeding ticket for going 6 kilometers per hour over the speed limit, which is about 3.7 miles per hour, and that wouldn't really be a big deal in the US. And again, I'm not making excuses. I totally deserve those tickets for going over. I agree. Just comparing how the different units of measurement and mindsets translate. These minor breaking of the speed limit in Germany will generally get us a ticket of around 20 to 30 euro, depending on where you break the speed limit. Unlike in Oklahoma, where it'll cost you a whopping $172. Unfortunately, the biggest ticket I've ever received in Germany was for going 24 kilometers per hour over and cost 98 euro 50 cents plus 1 point in Flensburg, but I'm not talking about that in this video. In Oklahoma, this would have cost me $200.
Damn, that hurts.
Since we have lived in Germany, though, the prices have been increasing, and my first few tickets were only for like 10 euro before they started increasing the prices, and I thought that these were especially cheap compared to what I was used to in Oklahoma at the time.
Damn.
One other thing that we've taken note of in Germany, and was actually subtly mentioned in my being pulled over stories, and that is the fact that American police do sometimes travel around in pairs or groups, but generally you see police officers on patrol alone, whereas in Germany, we've noticed that we generally see police officers at least in pairs a vast majority of the time. We've seen this and taken note of it so much so that I've even looked up to see if German police officers are required by law to work in pairs, and I found on the City of Hagen's police Facebook page this exact question asked, and they explained no, that they don't actually have to. But like I said, in the US, I'm used to seeing police police officers generally working alone, enough that I notice it as a very big difference in Germany, where nearly every policeman or woman has a partner with them at all times. To be honest, I think this is a great practice and should be more encouraged, as it can hopefully provide more accountability and help in high-stress situations, rather than leaving it up to one person to figure out how to police a situation.
Right. Time is money, honey.
All the differences that I have found and noticed about the police in the US and Germany, the most shocking difference for me is what it requires to become a police officer. So, first off, police in the US are not awarded any kind of diploma or degree for completing training as a police officer, and there are also no college degree requirements to join the police. In terms of how long it takes to become a police officer, I found the City of Oklahoma City Police's website, where they describe for their police force that police academy lasts approximately 28 weeks, and upon successful completion of the academy, the recruit is assigned to the field training officer program for 4 to 6 months. After this, the newly graduated recruits are assigned as solo patrol officers. So in total, it seems like we're looking at about 10 to 13 months of training before being able to go solo and fight crime. However, in Germany, the system is different in that in order to become a police officer, your training is a Bachelor of Arts degree and is a minimum of 3 years of studying before you can call yourself a police officer. So essentially, 1 year of training, at least in Oklahoma, versus 3 years of training in Germany, with German officers also receiving a university degree from their education. To me, a huge difference. To see who made it this far into the video, the random question of the week is: France or Germany? Who has the best bread? Thanks so much for watching, guys. Be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and I will see you in our next video.
Yo, man, shout out to him, man, for breaking down the difference between German and American police. Damn, bro, like literally it takes like a year to, you know what I'm saying, before you could start doing things on your own as a police officer. But yeah, man, they really be sitting there clocking, making sure you speeding, or if you doing anything crazy, you won't even know they're there, and they whoop whoop, here they come, they about to pull you over. But damn, bro, you racked up them speeding tickets, huh, big dog? Hey, shout out to you, shout out to all people in Germany, man. Yo, what was your experiences out there in Germany when dealing with police? Y'all let me know in the comment section below. It don't have to be too crazy that you don't want to incriminate yourself or anything. You can just say maybe a ticket or, I don't know, something. Y'all just let me know, what was your experience with a police officer? I never really had too many experiences with officers. You know what I'm saying? Not really, you know what I'm saying? Unless, you know, asking if we had weapons in the car or whatever. That was about it. But I never had too many experiences. Look, I stay out them people's way. I ain't gonna lie to you. I stay out those people's way. I don't want no parts of that. I'm cool, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make it home. We just trying to make it home. That's all we trying to do, man, for real. But yo, I hope you enjoyed the reaction to this video. If you enjoyed my reaction, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the Dope Guy Big Dog. Hit the notification bell whenever I upload. From right here on Snapchat and Instagram, right across the bottom screen. Any other videos you may check out, please comment to this video, my other videos, and leave likes and comments on all my videos to help grow the channel, help with the algorithm, for sure. Any more videos you may check out, leave a comment in the comment section below. No, I got you. I'm gonna spin the buck. But yeah, man, it's the Dope Guy, and I am out. Yes, sir.